Hello, investing bros. I am T Shroom, and you are tuned into one of the first crypto news shows of the trading day. And man, we're going to have some fun today. I've got some charts to show you all, I've got a little bit of news, and I'm going to be bringing it all to you here in just a second. Before I get too far into the video, though, I want to make sure that you all know that this video is sponsored by NordVPN. So NordVPN making this episode possible for you all. I'm going to get to a little bit more of the details about NordVPN, but thank you so much, Nord, for making this happen. And let's go ahead and jump onto the Bitcoin charts. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of education for you all because I'm seeing a lot of folks on the Twitterverse mischaracterize this candlestick here as a doji candle. Now, I'm going to tell you why it may not matter whether or not it's a doji candle, but ultimately this is not, right? So we have the definition here of a doji candle. It says, the doji candle is a name for a trading session in which a security has open and closed levels that are virtually equal. That's kind of the smoking gun, as represented by a candle shape on a chart. Based on this shape, technical analysts attempt to make an assumption about price behavior. Doji candlesticks can look like a cross, inverted cross, or plus sign, as illustrated by this. Right, so these are what dojis are usually going to look like. The dragonfly doji is usually the bullish one. Okay, so what's the difference here between these candlesticks? Well, it isn't closing virtually the same as where it is. The actual live daily candlestick is much closer to a doji, right, than the previous one. So what I would say is this is closer to a hammer candlestick, but either way, and this is why it may not matter whether or not it's exactly a doji, is it's serving a similar purpose. The trade psychology of a candlestick like this is that buyers were waiting, right? Buyers knew they wanted to buy in yesterday, which is what this whole candlestick illustrates on Bitcoin's daily chart. Each candlestick represents 1 day of trading information. They knew they wanted to buy, but they wanted to buy here at least at 38.4, call it 38.5, right? They waited. Right, they were just waiting. They had limit orders, or they were sitting patiently, waiting for the daily close, and then they had to bid it back up. Right, so that's pretty simple, and that's bullish, right? Because while there were buyers in the market to keep the price here, ultimately closed at just under 40,000, around 39.5. They were waiting, right? So they weren't there for the full day. They were only there for the end of the day. But that doesn't matter. That still counts, right? If the basketball goes in at the buzzer, it's still a point, right? It could potentially win the game. So this will be considered by some analysts as a reversal pattern. And what I will say is that while we have seen a shed, right? I'll draw it from 41,200. While we did see a shed down to the candlestick of 6.5% on Bitcoin, again, I'm drawing that from 41,200. We could have easily gone a lot lower, and I'll tell you why. Because we had this massive headline circulating. Now, this isn't new. We talked about it on the 3 p.m. show. Tim and I did. It's really nothing new, and you shouldn't be afraid of this, right? But there's a lot of new money in the market that probably was and got shook out by this massive 200,000 Bitcoin dump expected in the next 60 days, right? This could happen, right? But this article, this headline kind of circulates a lot around lows. When bearish momentum starts to pick up, which as illustrated here in the Ichimoku, bearish momentum is picking up. They go, the media and the powers that be, bears, people who have short position, they go ahead and they release and remind the market of these big, dark, gray storm clouds that are hanging over the market. I like what Tim's conclusion was, is that, ultimately, guys, it would be nice to get that 200,000 Bitcoin flushed into the market. Yes, it would push price down, but we know that there's a lot of new market participants that would be very eager to buy prices at those prices. Knock, knock, BlackRock, right? BlackRock really, and the rest of the Wall Street pals there who've unlocked the ETF potential to pension funds and other big whales. They'd love to buy it lower. Right now, everybody's looking at this chart and thinking, should I buy now, right? Or should I wait for some of these lower levels? And a lot of folks are saying, well, I'll go ahead and I'll buy, 15% or 25% of my dry powder for Q1, right? And that's kind of the way that a lot of people think in investing, and that's probably going to be the dominant prevailing trade psychology. Well, that's a little bit of TA there for Bitcoin. But in this video, we're going to ask, what is the best buy? What is the best buy for these alts? I'm going to be doing a little bit of TA towards the back end on these altcoins to determine exactly that. I am T. Shroom, and you're locked in to one of the first live crypto news shows. I do a little bit of charts, as you can see, do a little bit of news, and I also give, my opinions on some of the coins that I am accumulating every day, and especially at these prices. So let's go and get into the most important news of the day, which has everything to do with GBTC. That's the narrative is not going away anytime soon, but it is starting to become funny. Take a look at this meme here. We've got from Eric Bulkanis. This is the past 8 days in a nutshell. Of course, 8 days ago, or I guess 9 days ago now, the spot Bitcoin ETFs were approved, right? So GBTC outflows, okay, versus the 9 is the Superman, kind of characterizing Wall Street banks as the Superman. Don't know how I feel about that exactly. But then there's us, the Win Moom Degens, right? So that's pretty funny. All right, so that's the meme of it all, and that does a pretty good summary, right? And eventually, kind of looking at it, this train will eventually come to a stop, right? And the equivalent here is that this bearish train will eventually come to a stop. We will find a bottom, and a lot of analysts are thinking, hey, look, this current candlestick from yesterday close looked pretty bullish. It looked very doji-like, right? But let's get into the hard facts. Let's dive into the details. This, again, from Eric Bulkanis said latest, the great GBTC gouge hit record negative 640 million on Monday. Okay, the 9 did their best to offset, but fell short with the $553 million haul. Right, so that would be a difference there, favoring outflows. Rolling net flows still healthy at 1 billion, but ongoing battle. The 9 now have a 20% share versus BTC. Volume also remains very high for new launches in its second week. Okay, so taking a look here at the data, and this is not the last spreadsheet I'm going to show you guys, so if you hate spreadsheets, go ahead and smash the like button, because I do too. But in this case, they're important. Let's take a look here. You can see it illustrated. I'm gonna kind of bring your attention to the important figures here. So this is day 7. This is yesterday, right? This was what the close from yesterday. But ultimately, 640 was the outflows, okay, and then the inflows were all of these here, right? And so they total to just under 554 million, right? Totaling 553, and that is not enough to kind of overcome the outflows of 640. So price go down, right? That's simple supply and demand. The question is, when will that stop? Well, let's keep looking here. Let's keep venturing forward. And obviously, there's a lot more to pull out from these charts, but this one says pretty much the same thing. 500 in, this is from James Seyfert. Update for the Bitcoin ETF Cointucky Derby, a term that I'm very fond of. Let's see, 515 million came out of GBTC yesterday for a total of 3.96 billion in outflows since converting to an ETF. The newborn 9 saw plus 409 million flows in. Net outflows in total for yesterday were 106 million. Okay. So that is so far today, coming out at 6 a.m., right? So it's something to watch. We'll see how the day closes. But right now, this is the data to be paying attention to for indication of relief. I'm continuing to say, and I already have the lines drawn here. I'll go ahead and show where they are. I think that kind of looking at the momentum of inflows and outflows from GBTC and the Magnificent 9, or what does this meme call them? The 9, okay, I'm thinking that these are going to be probably our bottoming levels, right? Now, there could be other things that happen that would totally knock this thesis off its pedestal, right? Mainly this. If this happened, if they sold all the Bitcoin over here at Mt. Gox and issued all the money back to the recipients that were wronged, right, that were victims of the Mt. Gox kerfuffle, then that would be bearish. Now, what would have been smart for Mt. Gox is to be selling, right, all through this period here, but going way back into 2022. Just sell it bit by bit so that it doesn't have a shock in the market. Anyway, I would also add that there's not necessarily evidence that isn't what they did. So this could be a buy the news. If this headline were to go through, this could be a buy the news headline, because it would show, hey, this big market participant that's a seller, it's a defined seller. It basically doesn't have the liquidity to sell anymore, right? It already sold all of the 200,000 Bitcoin. I'm not saying that happened, but that would be very, very bullish if the truth came out on that. But right now, we don't know. I'm not convinced that we know one way or another how Mt. Gox is planning to sell that 200,000 Bitcoin, or if they already did. Okay, so the first level I have drawn here is 37,900, right? Because it rests nicely here on these resistance attempts to penetrate through. And then the second one here is 35,000. Now, if we get to either of these levels, I would kind of expect a temporary kind of turnaround and testing higher, right? But a test higher would probably get rejected around where these candlesticks are closing here, and then you'd have a swift turnaround and probably sideways movement until a push higher or a push lower, right, to test this level, and then something along the same lines. That's just the way that the markets trend. It's not going to be like this, right? Unless there's some kind of very, very bullish headline, like GBTC changes their fee structure from 1.5 fee down to be competitive with the rest of the spot Bitcoin ETFs at 0.2 or something like this. So let's take a minute here. I think I've got one more bit of data. Yes, GBTC has bled 13% of its shares outstanding. How high do you think that number gets before the mass exodus stops? So this is actually really, really interesting and important poll. It had almost 10,000 votes, so this is statistically pretty good. Although you'd have to assume that it's going to have a bullish bias, because most of the folks that are participating in a poll like this are going to want Bitcoin price to go up. But the overall outcome here is 35 to 50%. So far, 13% of the shares are outstanding, right? 35 to 50% still have to be outstanding, meaning be sold, right? There's still more blood to fall, is essentially the outcome here. And it's, the most bullish outcome would have been this. The least bullish outcome would have been this, so it's somewhere in between, right? So it doesn't give us a ton of data, but it also doesn't say that the market is thinking that we're going to have a much, much worse outcome, right? This would be Bitcoin price go to 25,000 if to the poll was here, and then this would have been, we are at the bottom today, right now, right? At noon yesterday. Okay, so it's somewhere in the middle. So basically, this poll, in my interpretation, is basically saying we don't know quite yet, but it's not clear that it's extremely catastrophic. It's also not clear that we're through the worst of it yet, if that makes sense. So I think that's actually very helpful. You might be hearing that and saying, T-Shroom, that doesn't tell me anything, and it certainly doesn't tell me what altcoins are the best buy. Don't worry, we're going to get to that in a second. But what it does tell you is that you need to continue to have contingency plans, because there's a large swath of the market, right? And by the market, I mean people who've responded to this poll, not exactly one-to-one of the market, but the market, right, generally does not know if the GBTC is going to continue to get sold, right? And as we can see here on this one, on GBTC still has, this isn't even the one that I wanted. There we go. GBTC still has quite a bit of assets under management that could continue to get sold, right? 21, I'm not exactly sure what that is. Oh yeah, so 21 billion. Wow. So 21 billion still under management there for, or it might even be, no, I think it's almost 26 billion under management there for GBTC, for Grayscale, while IBIT, the next biggest, the BlackRock iShares spot Bitcoin ETF, right, only has it has just crossed 1.5 billion under management for its Bitcoin spot ETF. Now that's crazy. As we've been seeing yesterday on our 3 p.m. show, we reported that that's still like at record setting by a long shot, right? This spot Bitcoin ETF from BlackRock is now trading at similar volumes to the most traded ETFs on the market, right? Including the SPY, including the QQQ, as we saw yesterday. So that's very, very big. Of course, there's going to be a ton of inflows on the first couple of days, right? And then that will kind of skew off eventually. But kind of the takeaway here is that there is still plenty of bearish ammo, unfortunately, for selling, right? The question is that GBTC sell thesis still there? And is this 35% still motivated? Like, is there a delayed motivation for them to sell, right? I think, personally, that thesis is still there. Ultimately, it's that 1.5 fee that is unfavorable, right, to have. It's just, why would I stay in a 1.5 vessel when I could go in a 0.2 vessel? It's just objectively cheaper, right? So that is a shift to the market. A bunch of participants are coming out and offering the same exact service much cheaper. So I think ultimately we will see more bleeding as a result of that. And as we saw, $25 billion worth of GBTC shares outstanding are still yet to be sold, right? So maybe now maybe we're starting to erode into the diamond hands of those GBTC holders, but it's also possible that they're just waiting on something, right? There's some reason why those GBTC holders are not selling, but they're going to, because that thesis is still intact. Okay, so where does that leave us on the charts? Ultimately, it's still very, very possible that 35,005, this line that I have drawn, is likely, probably isn't the right word, but definitely probable, right? It's definitely probable. All right. Well, hopefully that's a little bit of a, I wouldn't say it's clearly bullish or bearish. I would say it's somewhere in between, right? I think 35, this level here, 35 to 50, kind of indicates to me, right, that this is going to be kind of the zone, right? This is going to be kind of the sweet spot. Anyway, you can interpret it differently perhaps, but we have a lot more to cover. So let's go ahead and jump into our best buy section. Before we do, though, I want to jump into the chat and see what folks are saying. Nancy Croy said, "Good morning, bros." Good morning, Nancy Croy. First chat here of the day, and also first chat of 2024. That's right. Blackie Chan said, "Good morning." And Dylan Martinez said, "Hi, also." Those are your first three commenters of the day. Let's see. We got Crux in the chat. We've got Gia S in the chat. We've got the Kid Coman in the chat. And we've got Smiles requested a shout out. So Smiles, shout out to Smiles. There you go. You request it. They ask, they shall receive. That is the mantra here. Indie Rock Crypto said Matic. So already getting a little bit of a front run here on what the best buys are. I believe Tim actually said that yesterday on the 3 p.m. show, that Matic is one of the best buys that he's thinking. Blackie Chan said Blur. Pretty cool, pretty good. So folks casting their vote. Indie Rock Crypto said, "Do you?" I'm not sure what that means, so I'm not going to ask that one, but we can talk about that offline. Crypto Mini Bike said, "Good morning, everyone." Good morning, Crypto Mini Bike. Good to see you in the chat here. All right. That's right. Gia S said, "Whoa, Jack woke up to see the show." And that's right. Justin Eubanks said, "Yo." So we've got a ton of engagement here in the chat. Love to see it. Also, we got Alex O in the chat. We had Alex on just a couple of days ago. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, and we had a really good time. Alex O setting up some radical levels. You guys can check him out on Twitter and YouTube as well. That's Alex O. All right, folks. Well, let's go ahead and get into kind of the structure of this analysis that I'm going to be doing. So how do we define the best buys? Well, what is the maximum return, right, with the minimum amount of risk relative to the market, right? And that's not hard to calculate, as it turns out. Now, I'm going to be doing a very simple calculation with using the charts, but it's a calculation that I've been using for a while, right? It's something that I'm very familiar with, very comfortable with, and that is the monthly Bollinger Bands, right? So we go out to the monthly, and you guys can do this at home. You can do this on your own TradingView account, but I'm going to start with Bitcoin, right? So you just turn on Bollinger Bands. Now, maybe you don't even know how to do that. Well, the way you do is you go to indicators, right? The indicator button, and you just type in BB, right? And then Bollinger Bands, I've got them starred. I just click that. And I already have it turned on, so I'm just going to turn that off. And then I'm going to turn this on. All right, so as you can see here, Bitcoin is going to kind of set the standard here for this. And I'm going to be getting into some pretty exotic coins, guys, so strap in. I think Blur was requested. Hello, I'm seeing requested. Well, it could be just saying hello. We'll see. Let me get a little sip of my coffee here. And Matic, also Eric Wallen saying Sia and Sui. All right, so we've got all those locked in here. All right, so let's start off with Bitcoin. Let me give you guys kind of an explanation. So the midline of the Bollinger Band, right? That is kind of the base level. This is I believe it's let's see, it's a moving average, right? And so that kind of clocks what the price is historically the average, right? And for this one, it's the 20-day moving average. So ultimately, this is on average what Bitcoin's price was the last 20 days, right? For every candlestick. And that's very, very common in technical analysis for something like that to occur. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the midline of the Bollinger Band up to the current close of the crypto, right? So this 49, let's call it 50% off of the midline of the Bollinger Band, okay? So that's kind of our baseline. All right, the next one I want to go to is Chainlink. And let's just do the same thing. We're going to run through all these guys. And we're also going to take note of the proximity to the midline and the top band, right? So for Chainlink's close is 66%, right? To the upside, meaning it's doing a little better. It's been more bullish. More money has poured into this one, right? Since the midline of the Bollinger Band. All right, let's keep rocking here. Let's pull up Matic. Now Matic is actually below the midline of the Bollinger Band out on the monthly chart, okay? It's actually kind of hard to see it, to be honest with you. So let me see if I can close that out. Okay, so it's right here at 82.1, but some of you guys didn't know that you could even cancel out the candlestick. So it is 12% lower than the midline of the Bollinger Band. There is Matic to USD. All right. So far, that's definitely the winner. Now, why would I say that, right? I say that because you want to buy low, you want to sell high, right? Bitcoin and Chainlink were both 50% off its midline of the Bollinger Band, right? Now, unless you have a thesis for why Matic should be underbought, why it's a bad project or something like that, objectively, just looking at these analysis and being a swing trader or investor, meaning you have a long time horizon, you're not trading on the minute charts or the daily charts, you have like at least 3-week time horizon. This objectively is a better buy, right? But is it the best buy? We'll find out here in just a second. Let's keep rocking. All right, let's look at a Cardano. So Cardano got the midline of the Bollinger Band. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that these Bollinger Bands are condensing quite prominently. All right, so let's go ahead and do our measurement here, and it's going to come down to 24%. Okay, so Cardano underbought, especially compared to Bitcoin and Chainlink, but it's actually overbought compared to Matic, right? Again, this is pretty crude, but honestly, it's very helpful in my opinion to kind of see. It's almost like a horse race. You know, how far away are they from their 20-day moving averages, right? All right, let's keep moving here. All right. So the midline of the Bollinger Band here, all the way up for Solana, 150%, right? So that one so far is very overbought, right? Just according to this analysis. Now, we're not doing any kind of fundamentals here, right? You'll notice no fundamentals. All right, now I'm thinking something similar probably here for AVAX, 75%, okay? 75% to the upside. So Solana is still the most overbought by a pretty wide margin. I think the next highest was Chainlink, which was only up, I think, just a hair below 60%, right? All right. So far, Solana, the most overbought. So it would be the worst buy, technically, right, by this singular indicator analysis. All right. Now, we had a couple shout-outs, but before I get to those, I want to do Kaspa. And before I do Kaspa, guys, I got to tell you about our sponsor for the video, NordVPN. Right now, when you click on the link in the description for this very video, which you're watching the video, it's right here. It's right here. It's the very first link in our description. So NordVPN, right now, they've got a very steep discount. But guys, maybe you've never considered having a VPN before, right? Or maybe you have one, but you don't like it. Well, right now you can switch over to NordVPN and get a 63% discount, right? And it's a safer, way safer online with the leading VPN service. So it's actually a leading VPN service. It's not just some fly by night service. You've heard of NordVPN, right? And you probably know some people that use it. It detects malware during downloads and it blocks it, and then it blocks trackers and intrusive ads. So it also can keep you from having to watch a bunch of ads you hate, right? Don't you want to get back to the best buys, right? And get to the content that you want to see. But it also blocks trackers, which is extremely important too. If you don't want, a bunch of people thinking that they know what to sell you, right? So you can get NordVPN today by clicking that link in our description. It's also going to be the first link in the comments as well. That's NordVPN. They've got a discount. And man, you support the bros when you sign up. So let's get back to our analysis here and let's see how far out Caspa is. Now, unfortunately, oh no, all that buildup. I don't think that Caspa has enough historic charting to be able to look at this. Let's see if I can find it. So I'm looking at MEXC. That's going to be pretty old. That's going to probably be one of the older ones that it's on. Let's try Qcoin to tether. Oh no, I'm sorry guys. I don't think we're going to be able to look at it on the Bollinger Band. What I would say is that probably I'm so sorry guys. This sucks, doesn't it? Let's look at it on the weekly. Let's see if we can get it on the weekly. Yeah, so in the weekly chart, it is actually getting pretty close to the midline of the Bollinger Band. Again, this data point here for Caspa is a bit of a letdown because this is not at all the same analysis. However, you can see that it's 11% to the upside of the midline of the Bollinger Band, and it is relevant, right? Because this candlestick here from January 1st came down and tested that midline, right? So it's likely going to be coming down and doing the same again. That would be Caspa at 8 cents. If we go down to the Caspa daily chart, you can actually see, and I turn my drawings back on, you can see, this is the, you can see that this is actually been a pretty bullish zone to buy in, right? You see all these candlesticks here for Caspa where buyers have just gobbled up the liquidity that came onto the market, all the limit order sells, right? All the market order sells, whatever it is, the buyers came out and went to lunch. But where did they go here? They've been exhausted, right? So you're getting in when the rest of the buyers are exhausted. You can be a non-exhausted buyer, right? If you have some money on the sidelines, or if you've been able to save. Now, does that mean that price isn't going to go lower from here? The price can't even maybe get down to 7, right? Or even 6 cents? We'll see. We'll see. My guess, though, is that Caspa is going to get bought. It has a very bullish narrative around it, and Caspa is done really, really well. All right, so I had some shout outs here, and I want to continue to do some more of the monthly Bollinger Band analysis in the final minutes here. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's see. I did Matic say. All right. So SEI. Yeah, let's do it to the dollar on Coinbase. All right. So this is the daily. On the monthly, don't have enough data. Man, that sucks. Let's see. What was the other one? SUI, SUI. Yeah, so these are ones that have done pretty well, but they're so new, right? They're so new. Let's see, just from the bottoms here, it's up 192%, so that's pretty good. Put in those bottoms back in October of 2023, so that's not too bad. Again, not super valid, though, for our analysis. Hello Token, I think, might actually be a little bit older. Let's take a look here. But you still don't get the midline. You still don't get the Bollinger Bands out on the monthly chart. Well, that sucks. It's something that we'll have to keep in mind. You know what? One thing we should throw in here is CleanSpark. Let's see where CleanSpark is relative to. In theory, it should be right around where Bitcoin is. Let's see. So 65% to the upside. That's actually very, very close to Bitcoin spot. Very interesting. So on the monthly chart, things do tend to wash out a little bit. All right. Let's see. KD said more money is about to pour into Sol ecosystem when they do the JUP airdrop. I'm going in on Sol. I think a lot of people are thinking the same thing. I think they're thinking that Sol is the best buy because of that airdrop. However, these airdrops are very important, right? Because they incentivize people to buy. But as we just saw in our analysis, Solana is actually the most overbought, right? Crypto. Now that doesn't mean that I'm trying to discourage you from buying, right? All that means is that you have to be aware of it, right? That according to this very crude analysis that we just did, Solana is up 150% from the baseline, from the midline of that Bollinger Band, right? Right? Whereas a name like, Matic, which is a staple in the crypto space, is actually down 11%. So I'm going to have to give it to Matic on this one, guys. Matic is the best buy, at least of the ones that we've taken a look at. Let's take a look at Uniswap as well. Uniswap, household name in crypto as well, right? Very well known. And it is actually down 1%. It's actually trending right around the midline of the Bollinger Band out on the monthly chart. So I would say that's a pretty good buy too. Still is not beating Matic, right? Let's look at XRP. Ooh, this one might be interesting. XRP is actually up 7% from the midline. HBAR, as we're wrapping up here, HBAR is actually up a good bit, up 18%. Kind of in a similar boat to Cardano, I believe. Cardano, yeah, kind of similar. So Cardano up 25%. We already did that one though. BNB, I'm going to have to be doing some more research on Binance Coin because I feel something coming for Binance. I'm giving you guys a little bit of, so up 7% there for Binance Coin. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of alpha. How about that for alpha? A little sneeze. A little bit of alpha is, ever since CZ has gone and I guess basically got extradited to the United States, he's going to be facing a lot of court situations, a lot of legal situations, going to be spending a lot of time in courtrooms. If you take a look here, Binance Coin has basically been consolidated. Let me go down a couple of time frames here. On the daily chart, Binance is kind of consolidating. So this is 2023, the start of 2023. It's basically been, I wouldn't call it a stable coin because this is definitely some significant volatility down to 20, almost 30%, right? Right, but it's come back up recently. It's come back up, and I think that these are probably some pretty smart buyers because if you think about it, Binance is in, right? It's still in the top 10. In fact, I believe it's in the top 6. Oh man, we're way over time here, guys. I'm sorry. So Binance here is still in the top 5, right? So it in terms of name recognition and noobs that are flowing into the space, new money that will be flowing into the space in this next bull run, it's going to be getting some recognition. And a lot of those noobs are not going to know all the baggage that comes with Binance Coin. They're just going to see it. They're going to watch some YouTuber like me who, has a buy thesis on it. And ultimately, it's going to be something that people may even go ahead and buy disproportionately. So we'll see. And as we saw there on the monthly Bollinger Band analysis, it could potentially get bought because it's a little bit underbought. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. I see Army Piper coming into the chat, or somebody from the Piper Academy coming into the chat, reminding everybody to go over there. Yes, they have started. They're about 4 minutes into the show over there on Piper Academy. But guys, real quick before I head out, definitely go ahead and check out this NordVPN deal, 63% off. Tim was talking about it in his video. It's not something we want you to miss out on. They sponsor this video, and they're a great product. We want you to go ahead and sign up for it. At least go check out the website, the link in the description, and go ahead and check it out. But right now it's on discount, right? There's no better time to buy something than when it's on discount. That goes for digital assets, that goes for chips in a grocery store, and it goes for NordVPN. Go ahead and get it while the getting's good. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor, the TA. Shouted out loud on the PA. T-Shrooms news, got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.